Polls close in less than an hour. See how voter turnout may impact this year's results.
And severe weather in Ohio leaves one school with a big mess.
And in sports, Ohio University is looking for a win in the biggest game in primetime action. Newswatch starts right now.
Broadcasting live from WOUB TV in Athens, this is Newswatch.
Good evening and happy election night. I'm Jacob Solother.
And I'm Chelsea Stick. Thanks for joining us.
Athens County polls are set to close in a little less than an hour. WOUB's Lily Bradley is outside of the Athens County Board of Elections with more on today's voter turnout and what that means for this year's elections results.
That's right, Jacob and Chelsea. I'm here outside of the Athens County Board of Elections office. Now, I spoke with the Board of Elections Director, Debbie Quivy, earlier this afternoon. Quivy says they typically see less voter turnout in local elections like this year's. She said, obviously, in comparison to last year's election, which included the much anticipated presidential race, this year's turnout was indeed smaller. But despite the rain and cool conditions that may have turned some people away, Quivy says this year's election is just as important as last.
I think any election's important, and I wish people voted every election. They're all important elections. This is local, where you're picking your townships and school boards. That's important because it has an impact on the local people. So, yeah, all elections are important. Get out there and vote.
Now again, polls are expected to close tonight at 7:30, so you have little less than an hour to get out and vote if you haven't already done so. Reporting live in Athens County tonight, Lily Bradley, WOUB News.
Thanks, Lily. For the latest information and results as they come in, head to our website, woub.org/elections. You can also head to our Facebook page for Facebook Live updates on local and state races starting tonight at 9.
There's a new contract in place for Bell Preschool teachers. The Board of Education approved the contract in a meeting yesterday afternoon. The biggest change includes paying a higher deductible on health care and creating a health savings account for teachers. The teachers also approved the contract. It should save the district about $228,000 a year. Superintendent Tony Dunn says the support is just what Bell Pre needed.
We're just very appreciative that our teachers understand our financial situation and are supportive, and it just goes to show that we have some really great educators in this district that get the big picture, and that's not always the case.
The contract will last a year, but Dunn says the schools could be asking for an operating levy in the future to further improve the area's funding crisis. The Ohio Medical Marijuana Control Program announced it's given 14 cultivation licenses across the state, but there has not been any licenses awarded in Athens County. The state announced earlier this year it would give up to 12 Level 1 cultivator licenses and up to 12 Level 2 licenses to applicants. The deadline for the medical marijuana program to be fully operational is September 8th of 2018.
3 more people have been sentenced in Athens County Common Pleas Court in connection with a drug investigation. Joshua Dunleavy, Alan J. Altier II, and Keisha Gardner have all been convicted of engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity along with other charges. Dunleavy was convicted of having weapons while under disability, possession of heroin, and methamphetamine. Altier was also convicted of having weapons while under disability, tampering with evidence, and trafficking in heroin. Gardner was convicted of tampering with evidence in addition to the corrupt activity charge. All 3 have been sentenced to 4 years in prison. Insurance company Liberty Mutual wants a court to declare that it isn't liable to help a former Ohio University English professor. Andrew Escobedo is accused of inappropriately touching several female students in December of 2015. He resigned from his position and requested that his homeowner's policy from Liberty Mutual cover him. Liberty Mutual says the policy covers bodily injury or property damage, but not if it comes out of sexual molestation, corporal punishment, or physical or mental abuse. The company's request is still pending. Kroger employees in Marietta, Belpre, and Proctorville will see a pay increase due to a new union contract. The contract also includes 34 stores in West Virginia and 2 in Kentucky. 1,000 members of the United Food and Commercial Workers Local 400 voted yesterday to preserve health care and retirement benefits while also increasing pay. The contract will cover 4,200 workers total. The contract was effective immediately and extends through August 29th, 2020.
I'm Taylor Nimmo. Now, hopefully you remembered your rain gear today because that rain just seemed like it was never going to stop. But finally now we're starting to see that taper off and we should be good to go. Right now we're at 44 degrees. The winds are light, 9 miles per hour. Humidity is 90%. And that's because of that rain we've been having. Temperatures all around the region are typically in the 40s right now, 45 in Columbus, 46 in Newark, 44 in New Lexington. We're pretty much seeing the same thing all around the region. But let's take a look at a viewer photo from today right on Ohio University's campus. We can see that it does look pretty damp, but it still looks pretty with those fall leaves, and some of them are starting to fall, but it was a cold one today. Now, we want you to send us your photos if you have any. You can tweet them at TNIMS, that's my Twitter account, or you can tweet them at WOUB or on Facebook. Make sure you include the location and the source on those so we can give you credit on the show. Now, that's all we have for weather right now, but we'll have your extended forecast coming up here soon.
All right, thanks, Taylor. Students in some Ohio schools have the day off after rain flooded classrooms. A surveillance camera at one school caught a rush of water so powerful it actually broke down a library door. The pressure forced hundreds of gallons of water into the room.
Pretty much flooded our entire library. Unfortunately, we also lost a lot of books, and this is a favorite place for our students, and it was just a kind of a heartbreaking scene this morning.
Officials say students return tomorrow. Fire officials are investigating a home explosion that killed one and injured another. Officials say neighbors called emergency responders about the explosion in southeastern Columbus around 4 Monday morning. Neighbors pulled 54-year-old Shelley Williams from the rubble. She later died. 59-year-old Stuart Bell was found ejected from the home and remains hospitalized but is in fair condition.
We're learning more about what may have led to the dispute between Senator Rand Paul and his neighbor, and it wasn't politics. The GOP senator was allegedly assaulted by a neighbor at his home in Bowling Green, Kentucky on Friday. And according to a neighbor who lives nearby the men, Paul and the suspect Rene Boucher have been quibbling for years over yard waste. The neighbor said Paul and Boucher have a long-running dispute over grass clippings and leaves blown on each other's lawns. According to a police statement, Paul told officers Boucher tackled him from behind, forcing him to the ground.
Every day is a Malox moment anyway. I got a 52-48 majority, and as you saw on several occasions, we're not always totally in lockstep. So, there's nothing I like better than to have 54 or 55. Yeah, anytime we have a senator on our side who's not there, it's potentially a challenge.
A senior advisor to the senator said Paul has 5 broken ribs and bruised lungs, and it's unclear when he'll be able to return to work. Boucher is currently out of jail after posting a $7,500 bail. The FBI is now investigating sexual harassment claims made by employees at Kentucky State Capitol. FBI spokesman David Habbick says the agency is reviewing the information to determine if federal laws were broken. GOP House Speaker Jeff Hoover resigned his leadership position on Sunday after admitting he settled a sexual harassment claim outside of court with a member of his staff. The settlement also involves 3 other Republican lawmakers, all chairmen of legislative committees. Republican House leaders said those lawmakers have been removed from their leadership positions pending the outcome of an independent investigation.
This has not really been a pleasant experience for me. It really hasn't been because I had no desire to hurt anyone, to hurt the speaker or hurt any member of our caucus. But we can't tolerate this from Republicans or Democrats.
President Trump calls for a deal with North Korea, and he says he has taken the steps for a last resort.
Plus, while officials look to close the Texas shooting crime scene investigation, the FBI has not been able to unlock key evidence. These stories and more when Newswatch returns.
University students really have a huge sense of pride in our campus, in our school, and in our education.
People don't come to Ohio just to go to college. They come here to become become a Bobcat.
It's a really unique atmosphere.
Bobcat Pride is having that natural camaraderie.
Bobcats are just happy to be Bobcats.
My favorite time of year at Ohio has to be homecoming.
When the alumni come back, you can see that the love of this university doesn't fade.
Once you're a Bobcat, you're always a Bobcat.
Hey everybody, I'm Gridiron Glory host Joseph Payton. Every Friday night, live at 11:30, we will have a jam-packed show for you with everything that went down on the local gridiron that night. From every touchdown pass to every crushing hit, Gridiron Glory is your #1 source for all things Southeast Ohio football. So please be sure to tune into our show and also follow us on Twitter and Snapchat at Gridiron Glory, and of course like us on Facebook. I promise you won't want to miss out, because remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
I knew that I wanted to come to Ohio University from the very first time I visited here.
There's something about the campus that grabs you.
It was really comforting.
Very welcoming. It's one thing to write down your name and your GPA and that kind of stuff and send it in. It's another thing entirely to be here and see how great it is. The campus here is just electric.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Everything just looked really college-like.
I looked at my mom and I said, "This is it." And she said, "The tour's just started." I said, "No, you don't understand. This is it."
My professors really care. They care about my grades, they care about my opportunities, they care about my experiences, they want me to succeed.
They give those opportunities to the students.
My professors have been extremely approachable.
Literally, their door is always open.
You can go to them with pretty much anything. Everyone knows your first and your last name and where you sit in the classroom.
I really never feel like I'm being talked down to or just being taught material. I always feel like we're having a conversation.
And they want to share those opportunities and those experiences with us.
President Trump is calling on North Korea to make a deal. North Korea's nuclear threat is one of the key points of discussion during his visit to South Korea. Visiting the Korean peninsula for the first time today, standing in Seoul, only 35 miles from the North Korean border, the president said sanctions appear to be starting to work. President Trump called military force a last resort in confronting North Korea, but said it could still be a necessary one if Kim Jong-un won't back away from his nuclear ambitions.
Have a nuclear submarine also positioned. We have many things happening that we hope, in fact, I'll go a step further. We hope to God we never have to use.
He would not say whether he supported direct diplomatic talks, which he blasted only weeks ago as a waste of time.
We are learning more about Sunday's shooting attack that left 25 people and an unborn child dead. Many more are still in the hospital.
Texas officials say they hope to finish the crime scene portion of the investigation into Sunday's deadly church shooting by tomorrow night.
Obviously, this is a massive crime scene, and we have the best of the best processing this crime scene. It's a long process.
But as authorities continue to look into the gunman's background, the FBI acknowledging it has not yet been able to look at a key piece of evidence.
The phone of the subject was turned over to us. We flew that on a DPS plane last night to Quantico. They're in the process of looking at the phone. Unfortunately, at this point in time, we are unable to get into that phone.
Meanwhile, the community is rallying together to help the affected families.
It's going to take a long time to heal, and especially for the families that lost loved ones.
Loved ones like Lula White, the grandmother of the shooter's wife, Haley Kruger, a 16-year-old who helped serve breakfast at the church that morning, and Robert and Shani Corrigan, originally from Harrison, Michigan.
It's not just Sutherland Springs, it's the whole county, is affected by this.
A leading cause of deaths number is rising. That story still ahead.
We are finally seeing the end of the rain, but we'll also be seeing temperatures dropping in the next few days. We will have your full weather update next on Newswatch.
professors really care. They care about my grades, they care about my opportunities, they care about my experiences. They want me to succeed.
They give those opportunities to the students.
My professors have been extremely approachable.
Literally, their door is always open. You can go to them with pretty much anything. Everyone knows your first and your last name and where you sit in the classroom.
I really never feel like I'm being talked down to or just being taught material. I always feel like I'm having a conversation.
And they want to share those opportunities and those experiences with us.
Ohio University students really have a huge sense of pride in our campus, in our school, and in our education.
People don't come to Ohio just to go to college. They come here to become a Bobcat.
It's a really unique atmosphere.
Bobcat pride is having that natural camaraderie.
Bobcats are just happy to be Bobcats.
My favorite time of year at Ohio has to be homecoming.
When the alumni come back, you can see that the love of this university doesn't fade.
Once you're a Bobcat, you're always a Bobcat.
I knew that I wanted to come to Ohio University from the very first time I visited here.
There's something about the campus that grabs you.
It was really comforting.
Very welcoming.
It's one thing to write down your name and your GPA and that kind of stuff and send it in. It's another thing entirely to be here and see how great it is.
The campus here is just electric.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Everything just looked really college-like.
I looked at my mom and I said, "This is it." And she said, "The tour's just started." I said, "No, you don't understand. This is it."
Hey everybody, I'm Gridiron Glory host Joseph Payton. Every Friday night live at 11:30, we will have a jam-packed show for you with everything that went down on the local gridiron that night. From every touchdown pass to every crushing hit, Gridiron Glory is your #1 source for all things Southeast Ohio football. So please be sure to tune into our show and also follow us on Twitter and Snapchat at Gridiron Glory, and of course like us on Facebook. I promise you won't want to miss out, because remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
I'm Taylor Nimmo. Now, we certainly had our fill of rain today and cold weather. Temperatures were in the 40s, high of 44 degrees today. The low was 33. The average for today, high of 57, low of 35, so we're a little below average today. And our records, 2005, 73 degrees for the high, and in 1990, 16 degrees for our low. So as we look at tonight, it's going to be cold. We're seeing temperatures in the 30s, which I know a lot of us aren't too happy about that. It will be partly cloudy and light winds, so at least we're not getting any rain or snow, but it will be cold tonight. And around the region, it's looking pretty much the same. 36 degrees in Athens, 34 in Marietta, 34 in New Martinsville, 32 in Newark, 35 in Chillicothe. So it's looking about the same overnight tonight. And as we head into the morning tomorrow at the bus stop, if you're heading out to work or you're sending the kids off to school, make sure you have a coat. It's going to be still in the 30s at around 8 a.m. tomorrow, 35 degrees, mostly cloudy. It's a cold start to your morning tomorrow, but the good news is we are finished with that rain we've been seeing at least for the next couple of days. You won't have to worry about that, at least, although it is cold. At least we're not worried about the rain. Now, as we move throughout the day tomorrow, at noon, it's going to be 47 degrees, so the temperatures are going to increase throughout the day. Tomorrow, 4 o'clock, it's going to be 50 degrees and sunny, so it will be a sunny day tomorrow, and we're going to be seeing partly cloudy skies, light winds, nothing too crazy tomorrow. It will be pretty calm. It's not going to feel terrible, 50 degrees, but you do want to bring a jacket because it will feel a little chilly in the morning hours. All around the region, we're seeing temperatures in the upper 40s and upper 50s for the afternoon highs. We've got 50 degrees in New Lexington, 50 in Athens, 53 in Marietta, 51 in Jackson, 53 in Ironton, 49 in Columbus. But as we go tomorrow night, the big game for the Bobcats tomorrow, we have, as they host Toledo, it will be 42 degrees around game time at 7 o'clock tomorrow. So it will be dry just in time for all those football fans out there and any students or fans that want to go out and support the game. So make sure you do bring a coat, though, because as that game goes on, we're just going to see those temperatures drop overnight. So you might want to grab a coat, get yourself some hot chocolate for that game because it's going to be a good one tomorrow. So weather's looking pretty good for that game tomorrow. But as we look throughout the extended forecast, tomorrow's the high of 50, low of 29. We're not seeing too much rain on the forecast for this week. As we see Sunday, we do have a 50% chance of rain, but also Friday, it's going to be a cold one. If you have any weekend plans, make sure you keep that in mind. 38 is the high, but 22 degrees for the low, so make sure you bring anything to bundle up if you have any big weekend plans this weekend, but the forecast is looking pretty nice other than that.
All right, thanks, Taylor. Heart disease is the leading cause of death for both men and women, but according to the Centers for Disease Control, the number of heart disease deaths in the U.S. is dropping. One doctor attributes lower heart disease deaths to better treatments and access to health care, while also improving diets and exercise. One of the most common symptoms of heart disease is a heart attack. It's important to recognize the early warning signs of a heart attack, like discomfort in the chest, arm, and shoulders, nausea, vomiting, and lightheadedness and shortness of breath. The CDC says every year about 735,000 Americans have heart attacks.
Clark Wicks here for sports. Stay right there because we have a lot to talk about. Stick around to find out which star point guard may cause trouble for the Cavs after being traded to the Central Division. Also, find out who escaped with a win last night in Monday Night Football's matchup between the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. All that and more next on Newswatch. And as always, stay tuned to WOUB. Here's a look at what's coming up tonight on your public television station.
Everybody, I'm Gridiron Glory host Joseph Payton. Every Friday night live at 11:30, we will have a jam-packed show for you with everything that went down on the local gridiron that night. From every touchdown pass to every crushing hit, Gridiron Glory is your #1 source for all things Southeast Ohio football. So please be sure to tune into our show and also follow us on Twitter and Snapchat at Gridiron Glory, and of course like us on Facebook. I promise you won't want to miss out, because remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
Ohio University students really have a huge sense of pride in our campus, in our school, and in our education.
People don't come to Ohio just to go to college. They come here to become a Bobcat.
It's a really unique atmosphere.
Bobcat pride is having that natural camaraderie.
Bobcats are just happy to be Bobcats.
My favorite time of year at Ohio has to be homecoming.
When the alumni come back, you can see that the love of this university doesn't fade.
Once you're a Bobcat, you're always a Bobcat.
My professors really care. They care about my grades, they care about my opportunities, they care about my experiences, they want me to succeed.
They give those opportunities to the students.
My professors have been extremely approachable.
Literally, their door is always open. You can go to them with pretty much anything. Everyone knows your first and your last name and where you sit in the classroom.
I really never feel like I'm being talked down to or just being taught material. I always feel like I'm having a conversation.
And they want to share those opportunities and those experiences with us.
I knew that I wanted to come to Ohio University from the very first time I visited here.
There's something about the campus that grabs you.
It was really comforting.
Very welcoming.
It's one thing to write down your name and your GPA and that kind of stuff and send it in. It's another thing entirely to be here and see how great it is.
The campus here is just electric.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Everything just looked really college-like.
I looked at my mom and I said, "This is it." And she said, "The tour's just started." I said, "No, you don't understand. This is it."
Welcome back. I'm Clark Wicks, and here are tonight's sports stories. Now we start with news regarding the death of two-time Cy Young winning pitcher Roy Halladay. Halladay, who pitched 16 seasons with the Toronto Blue Jays and Philadelphia Phillies, crashed his plane into the Gulf of Mexico this afternoon. He received his pilot's license last month. Halladay, or Doc as his teammates called him, died at 40 years old. Now on a lighter note, we had another matchup between divisional rivals last night on Monday Night Football. The Green Bay Packers hosted Matt Stafford and the Detroit Lions in an NFC North showdown. The Lions traveled to Lambeau Field Monday night looking to put an end to their 3-game losing streak. Lions quarterback Matt Stafford showed why he deserved to be the highest paid quarterback in the league as he put on a clinic against the struggling Packers. Stafford completed 24 of his 38 passes for 242 yards and 2 touchdowns as the Lions went on to win 30-17. Now that win ties the Lions with the Packers with an even 4-4 record midway through the season. Next week, the Packers travel to Chicago to face the Bears, while the Lions host the Cleveland Browns. Now, speaking of the Browns, today marked the first instance since 2014 where Browns receivers Josh Gordon has been permitted to practice with his team. Last week, Commissioner Roger Goodell partially reinstated Gordon after he missed the last 2 seasons due to violations of the league's substance abuse policy. Gordon is able to be fully reinstated as early as November 27th. Sticking with Cleveland, LeBron and the Cavaliers look to regain ground in the division as they host the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. At 4-6, the struggling Cavaliers sit 3 games behind the Detroit Pistons. Now, allowing an average of 113 points per game, the Cavaliers' defense ranks 28th out of 30 teams. Tune in tonight at 7 to see if they can turn it around. Now, the Cavs' road to their 4th straight Central Division Championship may have gotten tougher this afternoon as rising star point guard Eric Bledsoe was traded from the Phoenix Suns to the Milwaukee Bucks. Bledsoe, who demanded a trade via Twitter last month, was exchanged for Milwaukee center Greg Monroe and protected 1st and 2nd round picks in the upcoming draft. Moving on to hockey, the Columbus Blue Jackets fell to the New York Rangers last night in a 5-3 contest. Sergei Bobrovsky and the Blue Jackets traveled to Madison Square Garden last night to face the New York Rangers in an attempt to maintain their lead in the Metropolitan Division. Thanks to second-period goals from Artemi Panarin and Josh Anderson, Columbus led 2-1 going into the final period. But a 4-goal period from the Rangers propelled New York to a 5-3 win. The Blue Jackets look to end their 2-game losing streak tonight at 7 as they travel to Nashville to face the Predators. Finally, on to some Ohio University sports. With 3 games left in the regular season, the Bobcats will be celebrating senior night tomorrow at 7. The Bobcats host the Toledo Rockets Wednesday night in what very well may be a preview of the 2017 MAC championship game. With a 7-2 record, the Bobcats have the best record in the MAC East, while the 8-1 Rockets lead the MAC West. At 5-0, the Rockets are the only team in the MAC that have not suffered a conference loss. Be sure to catch all the MACtion in primetime tomorrow night at 7 on ESPN2. Now, I'm Clark Wicks, and that's it for sports. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Clark. Here on Earth, the ethereal light shows known as auroras usually mirror each other at the north and south poles. But hundreds of millions of miles across space, on Jupiter, the auroras are dramatically different. Using X-ray observations taken by NASA, researchers built maps showing X-ray hotspots at Jupiter's north and south poles. They found that the auroras behave independently of each other. At the planet's south pole, the X-rays pulsated at consistent intervals. But at the North Pole, the emissions flared erratically, fluctuating in brightness. The auroras are also much larger on Jupiter, with each one measuring about half the size of Earth. Let's take a look at final weather with Taylor.
Thanks, Chelsea. Let's take one more look at our game time weather tomorrow. It's going to be a big one for the Bobcats, and it's going to be dry just in time, 42 degrees at kickoff, and it will get colder throughout the game, so you're going to want to make sure you bring a coat, some gloves, get your cup of hot chocolate ready, and it's going to be a great game tomorrow, so we're really looking forward to that. But as we look throughout the week this week, we're going to see not too much rain going on except for Sunday. However, we do have very slight chances on Wednesday and Thursday. Also, on Friday and Saturday this weekend, the temperatures are going to be in the 30s and 40s, even hitting the 20s on Friday night. So keep that in mind as you have any plans going on. Make sure you are prepared for that. It will be pretty sunny this weekend, though, so that is good news. If you have any big plans, it's going to be cold, but it will be fairly sunny, not too much craziness going on this weekend. As we move into Monday and Tuesday of next week, things are going to start to warm back up a little bit. We're going to hit the 50s in the lower 40 or the upper 40s again. So we are looking forward to those higher temperatures coming our way next week, as we're going to see some really cold temperatures this weekend. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Taylor. And that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks for watching. I'm Jacob Solother.
And I'm Chelsea Six. Stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next. And remember, you can find the latest news anytime at woub.org. Have a great night.
Buddy, I'm Gridiron Glory host Joseph Payton. Every Friday night live at 11:30, we will have a jam-packed show for you with everything that went down on the local gridiron that night. From From every touchdown pass to every crushing hit, Gridiron Glory is your #1 source for all things Southeast Ohio football. So please be sure to tune into our show and also follow us on Twitter and Snapchat at Gridiron Glory, and of course like us on Facebook. I promise you won't want to miss out, because remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.